don't think I've been called professor in public before. It's quite exciting. Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction and welcome. So, I think you probably know enough about me, so I'm not going to talk about my background. And apologies to those of you who've already had a glass of bubbles, because I want to sober you up slightly to explain why we're here. So, the National Income Dynamics Survey, which is South Africa's large panel survey, has this frightening statistic. And this is a statistic where consistently from 2008 to 2012, 30% of South Africa's population live on less than 636 rand a month. It costs me more to fill my car with petrol. And about half of those people are surviving on less than 318 rand a month, which is dinner for my family. And that's really why we're here today, because we're researchers, we're academics, we do what we think is trying to answer difficult questions, and for me, this is really the purpose. How can we make a difference to statistics like this? So, this came from Wikipedia, I have to confess. But it was the best statistic I could find for research and development funding in South Africa. This is a 2011 figure. 40 billion rand is spent in a year in research and development. That's from both the public and the private sector, but that's a lot of money for people who are trying to find answers to difficult questions doing research. And a lot of those people are academics. We've got PhDs and we make our careers out of doing this. My third statistic came from the budget speech earlier this week. South African government predicted spending for 2014-2015 is just over R1 trillion. So the reason we're here and the program that I'm leading is trying to bring together and make some sense of these three statistics. We spend a lot of money doing research and development, and that pays a lot of our salaries. We, as a government, spend a lot of money trying to implement the policies that we think are important, and yet 30% of the population still live and consistently have lived since 2008 on around 600 rand a month. That's not a lot of money. So the idea that joins these together, and the reason that I'm here today, and a lot of you are here today, is evidence-informed decision-making. And very simply, that tries to bring together the knowledge that comes from research and development, whether it's monitoring and evaluation, collecting routine data of how programs are being implemented, or more intricate quantitative or qualitative research, whether it's in universities or NGOs or outside, but trying to take that knowledge and information and link it with government. How can we encourage people who are working within government to make sense and make use of that information to ensure that the policies, decisions that they make and the decisions that they implement have better outcomes for the poorest people in this country? Now, there's been a lot of investment on that R&D side of the graph, of trying to get people to do better research, more relevant research, more policy-informed research, reflecting the priorities of the poorest people in the country, and in trying to disseminate it better. So we have lots of funding and projects and trying to get academics to write clearer English, for example, to write briefer summaries. You know, those things that actually as academics we're not terribly good at. Speaking in plain language, making your research papers more accessible, the whole open access movement in the way we publish our papers. So there's been a lot of interest, emphasis, and investment on that side of the graph. Now, we're working in the BCURE program on the other side. And I often say to my colleagues, I'm not very welcome in either camp sometimes. I'm not a terribly good researcher. I get criticized for being far too pragmatic. And then I'm not really someone who works within government either. So I kind of sit in the middle, and I probably keep nobody happy, but I do my best. And the BCURE program is a little different in trying to bridge this gap, because we're investing our time and energy in working within government. We're not doing research. Don't tell the dean that. Really what we're doing is trying to build capacity within government to be able to use that research that so many of us who work in universities are busy churning out and filing. I don't like to tell, well actually maybe I do like to tell my PhD students this. When I went to submit my PhD, The room was littered with theses. Honestly, they were holding the door open, they were propping up the window blind that wasn't working properly. There's a lot of PhDs out there. And it was quite a sobering moment. It made me realize that if I want to do research, I also want to work on the other side of this diagram. I want to make sure that somebody uses what I'm researching and that it's for the benefit of the people who I research. So I'm not alone in thinking that that's important. This lady here is Kirsty Newman. She works for the UK government for the Department for International Development. I'm not quite sure why they have a logo that says UK aid from the British people, but there's politics behind it. This is the logo for the Department for International Development in the UK. And Kirsty's vision is not just to make sure that researchers publish better research summaries and speak in plainer English so that people can understand it. Her vision is to try and encourage governments to use research. And she tells the story that she's definitely had more sleepless nights than the rest of us. And having spent some time with her, I'm sure that's true. She has a lot of energy and a lot of commitment to this programme. And she's negotiated from the UK government £13 million. So it's about 234 million rand on the current exchange rate. Although I'm not sure we should mention the exchange rate either. But she's negotiated this money because she believes that we should be working in government. And that money is paying for a team within the UK who are facilitating this whole programme, and then 5 different programmes that are working worldwide. And you'll see from this map that 4 of them are working in Africa. So there's some really exciting stuff happening in this region. And they're all working to try and build capacity amongst decision makers. So the Adam Smith International, which is an Australian organisation, is very bravely working to support cabinets in implementing evidence-based decision making in fragile states, Sierra Leone, Liberia and South Sudan. And I feel for those people who we met back in December who were busy moving to South Sudan to run this programme, because I suspect it's become even more challenging since then. Harvard University are working on online training for policymakers in India, Pakistan and Afghanistan. So that's the one programme that's outside of Africa. There's an organisation called AFIDEP who are based in Nairobi, who are working with ministries of health specifically in Kenya and Malawi. And we're working closely with them because part of our work is also Malawi. There's a programme that's led by INASP, which is working closely with our partners from HSRC here in South Africa and ODI, and it's lovely to have colleagues here. And they are looking specifically at implementing courses and toolkits for civil servants. And they're working in Ghana and Zimbabwe as well as here in South Africa. So welcome to our colleagues here from HSRC. And then the 5th programme, and we're very proud of this in the university, is being led by the University of Johannesburg. And it's taking a mentorship-based approach. I'll tell you a little bit more about that just now. But building capacity of civil servants, and also trying to work through a wider network of the African Evidence Network, of a community of practice who are committed to this work across Africa. And we're working specifically in South Africa and Malawi. So, it's my holiday photo of Lake Malawi. It's a beautiful place if you've never been. I wanted to introduce my team. So I'm leading this programme. I'm not sure where Isaac's gone. Isaac's over here. So Isaac Choge, who we should also congratulate, has recently been awarded his PhD. I always embarrass him. He'll get me back later. Is leading our work in South Africa. Yvonne Erasmus is leading our activities in Malawi, supported by Hazel, who is also going to be building up the African Evidence Network and acting as a coordinator to that community of practice. Mondi Otieno, who is our monitoring specialist and advisor, and brings a real wealth of background in M&E, which is particularly valuable because so much of the government work thus far in this field has been about building M&E capacity. And our programme is about encouraging the use of research evidence, and we need to build one on top of the other. So I'm particularly pleased to have Amondi on our team. The person who I think is always our most important team member, who keeps us all going, is Krista Heinecker, who's our administrator. And you've already been introduced to Tia de Vet, who's very much the reason why we're here, and we're very grateful to her for hosting us and facilitating so much of what we do. So, just to let you know, and apologies to those of you who are in this photograph, I didn't ask your permission. These are the people who we're working with. So our clients, and I use that word deliberately because we're here to work for government. We're about building capacity in government. We don't want to march in and tell you what we're going to do. And so I like to, I'm not sure it's a word you like or not, I've never asked, but we're here to work particularly with two programs within the government of South Africa, the Department for Performance Monitoring and Evaluation and the Program to Support Pro-Poor Policy Development. And in Malawi, we're working with the Ministry for Economic Planning and Development. We also have a wider network, and I talk about a mentorship program, a mentorship model for our program, and that's largely because there are a whole group of much wiser people than we are who are supporting us in our work, and we're very honoured to have them as part of this activity. Howard White and his team from the International Initiative for Impact Evaluation have been very supportive. The Epicentre in London, where I also have links with the systematic review work that we do. It's lovely to have Tim here from CLEAR, the Centre for Learning on Evaluation and Results. We have very experienced colleagues within Southern African Social Policy Research Institute, from the South African Cochrane Centre, the Centre for Evidence-Based Health at the University of Stellenbosch, and of course the wider members of this network, which is a community across Africa of people who are working either trying to get the research more relevant for policy or the policy to pay more attention to the research, but part of that wider network approach. I love this photo, and I use it often in my presentations, and it's really it's a mixture of a confession and an acknowledgement that we're not the only tree in this landscape. There are lots of people working in this area, and they do great work, and that includes our partners in government, our partners who are doing other activities, the other BCURE programs, our colleagues at HSRC, and actually the civil servants, many civil servants already within government, who are trying to make sense of the decisions they make and the evidence they have available to them. We aren't coming in to a group of school children to teach. And it's really important that we acknowledge that we're not coming to run a load of training workshops. We don't want lots of civil servants to sign up and come on a course and get a badge. And that's why we deliberately talk about a mentorship-based approach, because it's about learning from people. And I have plenty to learn, as well as hopefully contributing something. So we want to do more than just training in the course of this 3-year program. We're going to be delivering workshops, which we hope will be very practical, but also emphasizing the mentoring approach. So we want to identify specific projects that people are working on and support them in implementing a research-based, evidence-based approach in their own work. And we also have the opportunity to offer secondment so that people can also leave and be mentored themselves in different environments. It's a Southern-led initiative, and we believe very much that it should be grounded in very meaningful and productive relationships, and we try to invest in that as much as we can. We're very pleased to have links with the Africa Evidence Network, and we're working to build up more local networks and to promote local resources whenever we can. We're committed to meeting the needs and reflecting the priorities of the policymakers, decision makers that we work with. We come with UK funding, and there's a UK agenda, but actually we need to make sure that the work we do reflects the agenda here, and if we need to go back and challenge our funders and say that's not appropriate in South Africa, then we will. We have a foundation of doing something called systematic reviews, which is a very particular methodology for bringing together evidence in a structured and transparent way. Now, we're not going to do systematic reviews as part of this program, but the principles behind systematic reviews of transparency, comprehensiveness, critique, I hope are very much ones we can bring into this program. And we have strong links because some of our colleagues here within the centre that you heard about earlier are doing systematic reviews, and we have lovely networks across the world of systematic reviews. There's a number of big international networks. And so we have that as a methodological foundation. But we're also very pragmatic. And I told you I often get criticised for not fitting. Well, I'm often criticised by the systematic reviewers for not doing it exactly how they want me to do it. But if a decision maker needs an answer quickly, then you take shortcuts and you give them an answer quickly. So we want to take a very pragmatic approach to look at the best available evidence within the time available, but also to promote an approach of critical thinking. How good is this piece of evidence before you? Don't necessarily do what the professor says. Think about what their perspective is, where their biases might be, and how that fits in with other evidence. And we want to work as much as possible within individual, institutional, and systems levels, because we could handpick 5 people and train them to be fantastic evidence-based decision makers, and they could leave tomorrow, and that doesn't help anybody. And of course 5 people can't really make a difference, so we need to think about how to try and embed what we're doing. So just to quickly tell you what our programs are going to be. We've got funding for 3 years and we're at the end of month 2. So it feels like it's going very fast, but we do have a lot of time ahead of us and there's plenty to do. So we're doing a landscape review, which is really trying to work out who those trees are and what's already going on in this area. We're looking at existing resources because we are going to produce training resources, capacity building resources, but we don't want to reinvent them, and it might just be signposting what's already there instead of doing anything new. And we're going to be doing situation analysis, needs assessments with our colleagues within government to understand what other training is happening, how did it go, and where can we pick up from so that we're not reinventing a wheel. And we're using those preliminary pieces of work to develop some specific country plans, both for South Africa and Malawi. And we want to make as much as possible, draft some resources, but make them open access as much as possible. And we'll be piloting those and hosting a colloquium at the end of the year as a chance of getting this community together to talk about how we're doing and what can we do next. So then in 2015 and 2016, which I'm sure will be upon us soon, I still think it's 1990 something and I keep having to pinch myself. We're going to do we're going to put together packages of 3 different tools, for want of a better word. And I'm not sure what the balance will look like, and I think the balance will be different in South Africa and Malawi because we're starting from different places. But the idea is to run participatory training workshops that are needs-led, problem-based, and always delivered with local co-facilitators in order to build that capacity in how to deliver this kind of work as well. That we're going to offer mentoring opportunities to support implementation of learning, to establish relationships between mentors and mentees, and we have a lovely pool of people, which is growing all the time, of people who are offering to be mentors to others, and that we can build lasting networks through those opportunities. And then we also want to offer secondments so that people working within government get a chance to experience other environments, whether it's across government, across country governments, or within other institutions as well. And in my experience, that's a very valuable way of understanding another world, because so much of this is actually a translation process of understanding another world. Research and government speak 2 different languages, and we want to try and facilitate better communication. And then I mentioned before the African Evidence Network, and we will be working through them as much as possible and to build them up so that we have a practical community of practice. And we're hosting 2 colloquiums. So the first one will be in November this year, and the second one will be towards the end of this round of funding in December 2016. And we hope that'll be a chance to get people together. So I'm going to leave you now. Thank you for listening. There are just 2 things I wanted to flag. One is our website, which is very skeleton at the moment, but in the next month will start to evolve. But we hope to put everything on there and to be as open access as possible so that you can access resources. And if you are involved in other networks in this world, to also be able to showcase your work. We don't want to be precious about this ground. We want to make it open and hand it over to the members of this network. And then the second thing is to flag our colloquium. And I hope that might be the next time we can welcome you with a glass of champagne to think of celebrate our first year and think about the rest of the project. Thank you.